So as we know, we have discussed already what is the salts formed, like what is the compounds formed by using a sodium carbonate, sodium chloride, and as well as one more component, that is what the POP, plaster of Paris, which is obtaining from, what is the plaster of Paris formula? We're having two formulas for plaster of Paris. What is that, everyone? The basic formula of plaster of Paris is what? CaSO4 dot
Half H2O.
half H2O, or we can write 2CaSO4 dot H2O. So this is what POP. So POP is coming from heating of what? Yes, please. Heating of
Gypsum.
gypsum. Okay. So if we heat the gypsum up to what temperature? Everybody? Heat to
100 degrees Celsius.
100 degrees Celsius.
or 373 Kelvin. You should not heat more than this. Why? What will happen if you heat more than this temperature? Yesterday I have told you.
Only calcium sulfate will form, sir.
Yeah, it will find, that is only called as something. What is that called as?
Dead burnt
Burnt plaster.
Red burned plaster. That is the reason. So gypsum, if we heat 200 degrees Celsius, we will get either CaSO4 dot half H2O plus 1 by 2 H2O, or we will get 2 CaSO4 plus 3 H2O. So any one equation you can write. So, but you should not heat the gypsum more than that temperature. And what is the properties of this? And what is the applications? Everything we discussed in our last class. So POP is very, very important. So many times they'll ask the question. So let us finish this chapter in our today's class. So today's class, we are going to discuss the last concept and the most important one. That is what water of crystallization. So please write it. Water of crystallization. Okay. So water of crystallization, wherever if you find it, that is only we used to called as hydrated salts. What we used to call, everybody? We used to called as hydrated salts. Clear? So if you notice it, these salts who is containing these water molecules, they do not appear to be wet. They appear to be dry only, but these water molecules which is present in the salts, actually they're having a very important part in their crystal structure. If the salts are present in the crystal form, that is only because of this water molecule present in it. So if you remove that water molecule, then they will lose their crystal structure also. So that is why the water of crystallization gives the crystals of the salts, they're like particular shape, they will get it. And even particular salts, because of water of crystallization, they will obtain the color also. So that of course we all discuss with that. So what is water of crystallization? So let us see that. So the main important of water of crystallization in the structure of crystal. So if you take any kind of salt, if it is having a crystal structure, that is definitely because of what, everyone? It is because of water of crystallization. Understand, Amma? So the salts who is containing the water of crystallization, that all the salts we used to called as what, everybody? We used to called as, please respond.
Hydrated salts.
Hydrated salts. Okay. So let us see. Every hydrated salt has a fixed number of water like molecules of water of crystallization. So that is what we are having some examples we'll discuss and all. So first, right, what is water of crystallization? The water molecules, the water molecules the water molecules which form part of the structure of a crystal of a salt are called water of crystallization. Is it okay? Everybody clear? All of you? So now, if I take first example, let me take the well-known salt for us, copper sulfate. So if you take the copper sulfate crystals, all of you observe very carefully, copper sulfate crystals, and if I notice it, they contains basically 5 molecules of water of crystallization. How many molecules, everybody? 5 molecules of water of crystallization for how many units of copper sulfate? In one formula unit of, okay? So one formula unit of copper sulfate. So if you take one formula unit of copper sulfate, means in the sense of one molecule of copper sulfate, it contains how many water of crystallization, everybody? It contains the 5
5 more.
molecules of water of crystallization. So that is why it is called as copper sulfate pentahydrate. What is to call? Copper sulfate pentahydrate. Penta means what? Everyone? 5. Okay, pentahydrate means 5 molecules of water. That is the meaning of it. Pentahydrate means 5 molecules of water. Please remember that. Clear, everybody? So, what is the water of crystallization of copper sulfate? Water of crystallization of copper sulfate.
5 molecules of water of crystallization.
That is what. Okay. So 5H2O. That is what you should answer. Clear, all of you? Yes, that is. Next, if you take washing soda, what is the chemical name of washing soda? Everyone, this is the first example. Let me take second example. Washing soda. Washing soda, what we used to call? Everybody. Washing soda formula, tell me the scientific formula. Sodium carbonate. Yes. Sodium carbonate crystals. So that is only we used to call as sodium carbonate crystals means what is that actually? It is actually washing soda.
Awesome.
Understanding? So washing soda crystals, if I have taken, here also same. One formula unit of sodium carbonate contains 10 molecules of water of crystallization. Okay. So it contains how many water of crystallization, all of you?
10
Contains
molecules.
10 molecules of water. 10 molecules of water of crystallization. Water of crystallization for how many? Per formula unit. One unit of, or you can say one formula unit, so that what is the formula will come? Everybody, sodium carbonate formula, Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. So this is only we used to call sodium carbonate decahydrate. Sodium carbonate, what is to call? Decahydrate. Okay, deca means, what do you mean that deca? 10 molecules.
10, sir.
Okay, that is. Now, even today's class we studied, POP is coming from some substance. From POP is coming from where? Everybody. POP is coming from by heating of gypsum. So if you take, that is only ways to say calcium sulfate crystals. What is to call? Calcium sulfate crystals. So calcium sulfate crystals means what is that? Everybody. Gypsum. Yeah. Gypsum crystals. So gypsum crystals contains what, guys? How many molecules of water? All of you.
2 molecules.
Yes.
molecules.
Contains two molecules. Two molecules of water. That is what you have to remember. Water of crystallization. Water of crystallization in one formula unit. So what is the formula? Gypsum formula. Everybody. CaSO4 dot 2H2O. So how to read this one? Everyone tell me. Calcium sulfate. Respond. Calcium sulfate 2 means what?
Dichloride.
Di means 2. Clear? Everybody? All of you? Next, same way you have taken first chapter. Yesterday also I told you. Iron sulfate. Anyone? By decomposition reaction, you might be remember that. We are getting sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide gases. Do you remember all of you? Yes, please.
Yes,
That is what. Yeah. So tell me iron sulfate what?
FeSO4.7.
Dot 7H2O. Okay. So iron sulfate means iron sulfate crystals contain 7 molecules of water of crystallization per one formula unit. So FeSO4 dot 7H2O. How to read it? Iron sulfate.
Heptahydrate.
Yeah. Heptahydrate. Hepta means 7. That is what you have to remember. So this is how, what is water of crystallization and hydrated salts. So if you notice that, it should be noted that water of crystallization is a part of crystal structure of salt. Do you all understand, everybody? So water is not present in free state. So is it appears to be wet or is it appears to be dry? That is what is my question, everybody. All of you. So if you take everything dry, okay. So that is what, please all of you remember. So it is water of crystallization is a part of crystal structure of a salt. So it is not present in a free water. So it does not appears to be wet. Very, very important question. So that is why the salts containing water of crystallization appears to be dry or appears to be wet. Everybody appears to be
Right.
Dry.
very important. So the question is asked in the NCERT. Is it right or wrong? All of you? Yes. That in text it is there. Correct or not? Check it. Yesterday I told you to read. That is the reason. So it should be, write it. Water of crystallization, it should be, remember that. Write it. The water of crystallization, write this point. The water of crystallization is a part of crystal structure the water of crystallization is a part of crystal structure of a salt. Since water of crystallization is not free water, it does not wet the salt. Clear, everybody? Understand? All of you? Thus, the salts containing water of crystallization appears to be how, guys? They appears to be wet or completely dry. Containing
Completely.
water of crystallization appear appear to be perfectly dry. Okay. So this is in text. Text when you are reading this question they asked. Have you checked it? All of you? Yes. So one more question is also they asked. That is what? What is the importance of water of crystallization? What is the importance of water of crystallization? Everybody. They will add the crystal structure to the what? Water of crystallization will give crystal structure to the whom guys? Crystal structure to the salts. Understanding? And in particularly some cases, they will give the color also. If you remove the water of crystallization, the color of the salt also will changes. That is only you have to remember. Very, very important. Right. The water of crystallization, we will discuss it now. The water of crystallization gives the crystals of the salts, crystals of the salts, their shape. So the shape is obtaining only because of this. Okay. And in some cases, like particularly few salts, imparts them color also. Imparts them color. So let us take for example, if you have taken. So we all knows that copper sulfate. All of you remember that? What is the formula of copper sulfate? Water of crystallization. All of you? Copper sulfate,
Pentahydrate.
pentahydrate. Yes or no? So CuSO4 dot, what we can write guys? 5H2. So if you notice it, the presence of crystallization, that is what? The presence of water of crystallization in copper sulfate crystals imparts them because of this water of crystallization, it is obtaining the crystal structure and it will impart the color. What is the impart the color? Copper sulfate color, very popular. We studied so many times. Impart A. What is the color of copper sulfate?
Blue color, sir.
Blue color. Understanding? So because of water of crystallization is present, iron sulfate imparts what color? Iron sulfate. This is also we people knows. All of you. Iron sulfate color.
Green color.
Green color. Displacement reaction we studied. Do you remember that everybody? If you put iron nail in copper sulfate, it will turn into green color solution. Yes or no? All of you? Yes. And if you take sodium carbonate, Na2CO3 dot 10H2O and calcium sulfate, CaSO4 dot 2H2O, gypsum, these two, they will remove the water or add the water of crystallization. Always they will be appears to be in same color. What is the color? With or without water of crystallization. Without water of crystallization. What is the color? All of you? Yes, please. White color only. Clear, Amma? So we are having so many salts. If you take nickel sulfate salt, cobalt nitrate salt, cobalt nitrate light brown color it will be there. Nickel sulfate light dark blue color, copper sulfate blue color, magnesium sulfate white color, iron sulfate green color, like sodium carbonate white color. Like some salts, they will obtain the crystal structure as well as color also will come because of water of crystallization. If you remove the water of crystallization, the color also will changes. That is what action of heat on hydrated salts means. What do you mean by action of heat? Means by heating we are trying to remove what guys? Everyone, we are trying to remove what? Water of all of you. Water of
Crystallization.
okay. So by heating, with the help of heat, we are trying to remove the water of crystallization. So when the hydrated salts are heated strongly, they will lose their water of crystallization. So by loss of water, do you know what the changes will take place? The hydrated salts, they lost their regular shape and as well as color also, and they become colorless, powdery substances. So that is why after removing the water of crystallization, we used to call, they are called as action of heat on hydrated salts by removing water, removing water of crystallization. Water of crystallization, they are called as, understanding what we used to call they are anhydrous salts. So with the water of crystallization, we used to call as what? Hydrated salts. Without water of crystallization, we used to call as anhydrate salts. So these anhydrate salts, they do not have no water of crystallization. So they will be very clear. And see, as soon as if you remove the water, so what is changing? The salts, they will lose their regular shape and color also. So please remember that. They will lose regular shape and as well as what? All of you.
Color.
Color also. But color very few salts only. So let us take again the popular salt. So CuSO4, what is the water of crystallization? Everybody.
5H2.
So this is hydrated or unhydrated? It is
Hydrated.
hydrated copper sulfate. So it is a crystal form or a powdery form. Everybody. It is the
Crystal form.
crystal form. So if I started heating, keep it in mind, if I start heating, tell me what will happen. It will turn into CuSO4 plus 5H2. So CuSO4, this is what we used to call as, all of you, anhydrous copper sulfate. But what is the color? Anybody can tell. The blue color will lose. It will turn into what color?
White color.
Okay.
White color.
So that is what you have to remember. And this one is anhydrous. So it will turns into powdery. Okay. It is not a crystal one. It will turns into powdery. Yes, please. Powdery substance. Understand, Amma? So on strong heating, the blue color copper sulfate crystals turns into what? Everybody? Turns into white. Why? Why they turns into white, guys? Blue color. Because of loss of what? Because of
Loss of
loss of
crystallization.
water crystallization. And this process is a reversible process. So if you go to the lab and you can take again. If you add again 5 water of crystallization. So again we will get what, guys? Again we will get hydrated salt. Clear, everybody? So again they will turns into what? Anhydrous copper sulfate again turns into what, guys?
Hydrated copper.
Hydrated copper sulfate. So again they will obtain from powder form to crystalline form. So